ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask you to kindly take your seats. Whoop. It happens. Very sorry for that. Mr. Chairman, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the very first Southeast Europe Aviation Summit, hosted by Tango 6 Events. Let me also extend a special welcome to the many delegates who traveled to Belgrade from across Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and the US. My name is Milos Maksimovic, and I will be your MC for the next 2 days. Throughout the summit, we invite you and encourage you to use our official Twitter hashtag, SEAS16. It's SEAS16. I will also kindly remind you to silence your phones, or if you will, put it on airplane mode. To kick things off, please join me in welcoming to the stage your host, Petar Vojinovic, the founder and CEO of Tango 6 Events. But before he takes the stage, however, let me show you why we are here. Ladies and gentlemen, Petar Vojinović.
On behalf of Tango 6 Events, the most outstanding team I have had ever pleasure to work with, on my own behalf, on behalf of my country, on behalf of the most beautiful city in the world, Belgrade, welcome. Welcome to Southeast Europe Aviation Summit 2016, our inaugural event. We have shown you a video, not just because it's a video of one of our foundation partners, Sabre, but because it encapsulates all the emotion that we want to see out of travel, all the things that stand behind the things that we're going to talk about these 2 days. We have assembled 39 panelists, 62 companies from across the region, 19 countries have all their representatives right here in Belgrade. We will talk about airlines, airports. We will talk about air traffic management. We will talk about OEMs. The aircraft manufacturers are here. We have 6 of them. And we have outstanding keynotes. Mr. James Hogan is here, and a couple of distinguished guests that will show how the industry has really grown. I would like to thank Sabre, our foundation partner. I would like to thank Air Serbia as well. And I would like to thank all of you coming here today. So without further ado, I also would like to announce that Tango 6 Events will host the Southeast Europe Aviation Summit 2017 as well. Thank you once again, and let's get the show on the road.
Thank you, Petar, once again. Over the past few years, the government of the Republic of Serbia has identified the aviation industry as one major driver for the growth of Serbia's economy. As Serbia looks to strengthen this promising industry, building on successes of the last 4 years, it will look for regional partnerships and further expand cooperation with countries in Southeast Europe. Building a strong national airline with a global presence has indeed been one of those successes. As we open the very first edition of the Southeast Europe Aviation Summit, we are very grateful to have with us today someone who has presided over several of Serbia's recent achievements in aviation. Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of the Supervisory Board of Air Serbia and Mayor of Belgrade, Siniša Mali.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Hogan, I have 2 functions today to have. Actually, it's Mayor of Belgrade, and as the Mayor of Belgrade, I would like to welcome you all to this beautiful city. We managed to have a nice weather outside, so I'm sure you're going to love and enjoy the 2 days you're going to spend here with us. Also, as Chairman of the Supervisory Board of Air Serbia, I think this event is critical for the present and the future of the aviation industry in our country. We've done a lot in the past 3 years, but there is still a lot ahead of us to be done, and we don't want to make any mistakes. We haven't made any mistake in the last 3 years. We don't intend to make any mistakes in the foreseeable future. So that's why summit like this, which is organized by Petar, and Petar, thank you very much for this, is very important to us to gather all the professionals or the experts from around the world to make sure that we get your knowledge, get your references, get your know-how, and make decisions which are going to shape the future of the aviation industry in Serbia. Before I talk about the present and the future of the aviation in our region, let me just remind you about the beginnings. The first flight in Serbia took place in 1910, with the initial Serbian-made aircraft delivered to the market in 1912. In 1913, then the Kingdom of Serbia became one of the first European states to set a legal framework in the field of civil aviation, even before the US. In 1915, Mihailo Pupin, a world-renowned Serbian physicist, co-founded the United States National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, the predecessor of NASA. So it shows that our history goes long way back. And based on this basis, we are supposed to build something which we are doing right now. And collaborating with fellow Eastern Europeans and drawing inspiration from around the world, flight pioneers like Vladimir Aleksic and Ivan Saric used wood, linen, motorcycle wheels, and even piano strings to build the earliest aircraft in Serbia. And even at its very beginning, Serbian aviation always prioritized domestic production, cross-border partnerships, and knowledge creation. And even today, I'm convinced the reason we are here is to make sure that we all work together. And one of the outcomes of my presentation should be the regional cooperation. That's why this event is very important to us. As Air Serbia, we have initiated direct flights to New York. But then we said, what can we do for the region? Because unless we actually collaborate more and we together, jointly, become one and participate in the global economy, this is the only way we can actually succeed. If we work together as one in the region, we're going to be able to attract more tourists, we're going to be able to get and to reap all the benefits from our flight to New York, and to actually make sure that we are stronger as a region. That's why this event is critical to us, and that's why I was looking forward to participating in it. Air Serbia is a success story that we are very proud of. I personally participated in it. There are a couple of people who has also done a lot in this, for this endeavor. They are here with us today. And for us, it was a turning point in the aviation industry strategy or development in the last couple of years. Golden era of the aviation industry in Serbia was during the 1980s. Then the fall started during the 90s, of course, during the 2000, from 2000 to 2010 as well. At the end of 2012, we had Air Serbia, which was at the verge of bankruptcy. A company which in 2013 lost almost 72 million euros. And then only a year and 2 years after, thanks to our partnership with Etihad, we managed to turn that company around. The company is now profitable. It was actually profitable the first year of its operations. And if, as Mr. Hogan said, it's probably the fastest turnaround story in the aviation history in Europe. And we are very proud of it. Today, Air Serbia contributes directly to the GDP of Serbia more than $200 million, more than 800 million in tourism and additional services. By 2024, it's going to be $1.8 billion direct contribution of Air Serbia to our economy. It's a huge, huge step forward. So from the company which was at the verge of bankruptcy, now we have a fastest growing, the most developed airline in the region who is pushing the whole Serbian economy forward. So this is the right story. This is the success that we needed. We got it, but based on that, we need to build forward. Aviation industry depends and dependent on the success of Air Serbia, but there is a lot more to be done. Airport Nikola Tesla is one of the examples. 3 years ago, the valuation, the market cap of the airport was approximately $100 million or euros. Now, we expect for the concession of the airport that is going to be realized next year by the government of the Republic of Serbia to get at least 400 million, so 4 times more in only 3 years, which shows that Air Serbia contributed not only directly to the Serbian economy, but also indirectly to the development of various enterprises, out of which we're going to reap benefits this year or next year or in years to come. Yat Technica is another example. The company, which was in very bad financial situation, it's an MRO business in Serbia, and currently we are negotiating about the privatization of that company, also is dependent on Air Serbia and is actually building its success on Air Serbia's operation. We expect to finalize the privatization of this MRO business next year as well, to get a partner, whether it's going to be Etihad or someone else, who is going to develop this further. So it's one more additional benefit of the privatization of Air Serbia that we did 3 years ago. Let alone what CAD, Civil Aviation Director, did in the last 3 years, signed numerous agreements with various countries from Asia, South Africa, South America, basically just broadening the span of the agreements that Serbia has with other countries. So these are the indirect and direct benefits that we have received or got from the privatization of Air Serbia. But I'm going to finish this presentation with something that I think Mr. Hogan will agree with me. Serbian workforce is second to none. And our biggest asset, not only in this industry, but other industries as well, are people, is human capital. That's why education is critical to us. That's why summits like this are critical to us, that people learn, get your know-how, learn something from you, of course, but the fact that only we in Air Serbia employed, I think, more than 600 people in the last 3 years. Etihad alone in Abu Dhabi employed, I think, more than 300 Serbians in the last couple of years, shows that we have human capital that we should just use in a proper way. That's why education is a top priority for government of the Republic of Serbia. That's why people like you, young people who need to participate in the future of this aviation, are our priority. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you. We have done something. I think 3 years ago when we signed the agreement with Etihad, it was very difficult, very difficult moment for all of us in order to start something that we didn't know how it's going to end. But now, from the verge of bankruptcy to having the most successful airline company in the region, is really something that we should all be proud of. It's a success for the whole country, not only for us. And this is where I'm going to stop. I wish you all the best in the next 2 days. I wish you a good collaborative panels that you guys are going to have. We should learn something from you. We're going to listen very carefully. And hopefully the decisions we're going to be making in the future about the MRO businesses, about the strategy of the development of our airline industry, about the future of our airport, are actually going to shape the future not only of this country but the region as well. Serbia is, and Belgrade is, currently the hub of the region. We have the fastest growing airline. We have the number of flights which are dominates the region. We are the only country or only city that flies directly to North America. In the next couple of months, hopefully we're going to get 1 or maybe even 2 additional direct lines to China. So Belgrade is the hub and will be the hub in the future as far as the airline and aviation industry is concerned. But we need, through events like this, to confirm this position and to strengthen it even further. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best. Enjoy Belgrade, and these 2 days use it so that we learn something from you, but also you learn something from us. Thank you very much, and Petar, thank you very much for organizing this event. Thank you.
Thank you once again. It is now my great honor and pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. This man has made a splash globally, not only by building a world-class airline and brand in a relatively short time, but by breaking the legacy mindset by embarking on an ambitious plan to expand Etihad beyond its home market and by redefining air travel for anyone fortunate enough to fly with Etihad. He was named Aviation CEO of the Year by CEO Middle East Magazine and Kappa Airline Executive of the Year in 2012. He received the Executive Leadership Award at the Airline Strategy Awards in 2013 and was inducted into the British Travel and Hospitality Industry Hall of Fame in 2014. He was ranked in 2015 among the top 25 most influential executives in the business travel industry by Business Travel News. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President and CEO of Etihad Aviation Group, Mr. James Hogan.
Well, good morning. It's always a pleasure to be here in Belgrade. Your Excellency the Ambassador for the United Arab Emirates, Your Excellency the Ambassador for Australia, the Mayor of Belgrade, ladies and gentlemen, what a great day to talk about aviation. And aviation, as Sinisa said, is certainly a unique sector because it's an industry that is impacted by so many factors outside of your operational control, whether it be bilateral, whether it be aviation agreements, air services agreements between countries, whether it's foreign ownership and control, which has a huge impact on merger and acquisition, whether it's about changing business models, low-cost airlines versus legacy carriers, the ability to achieve network expansion and scale. There are so many factors that restrict your ability to re-engineer. But our model is in fact about re-engineering. Because certainly as an industry, airlines have a very high cost of entry. The investment in aircraft, the investment in standards, the infrastructure, airports, air traffic management systems, what are required to establish an airline within a tough regulatory environment means that scale and network connectivity is fundamental. And airlines can't do that in their own right. And that's why you saw many years ago the emergence of the alliances. Etihad Airways was established by the United Arab Emirates back in 2013. And in fact, when we started, we had a clean sheet of paper. We had no infrastructure, we had minimal employees, we had no network. But we had to build from scratch. And we had to build on a vision, a very clear vision of the leadership of Abu Dhabi, and build a business with a very clear focus on right shape, right size, right people to take advantage of our geographic positioning. So in some ways, there was an advantage that we weren't bound by 30, 50 years of legacy agreements, old aircraft, and legacy mindsets. With 140 different nationalities, we're able to build an airline, which comes rare in one's business life, of a global airline with a clean sheet of paper. So, fast forward to where we are today. We operate an airline of over 110 passenger and cargo destinations, 120 aircraft. We have 200 plus more on order. We carry in excess of 17 million passengers, employ 26,000 people, and a considerable business, a business of over $9 billion US turnover. That's Etihad Airways. Back in 2006, our turnover was $300 million. So we had to accelerate, build a network, build a brand, build a product and service while simultaneously focusing on safety and the standards that you would expect of any international carrier. But a few years ago, we realized that being the size we were, it was very difficult to compete in a global aviation market. We didn't have the reach. We didn't have the scale. And Abu Dhabi, in fact, was also diversifying their strategy. Many years ago, Abu Dhabi realized there was a risk on the energy sector. So diversification was fundamental. So you saw many different pillars emerging in business, in services, hospitals, education, in tourism. And aviation and transportation was fundamental of how we took advantage of our regional positioning. Many people say to me, how can 3 airlines in the Gulf compete? From Abu Dhabi, within 3 hours flying time, we have the GCC, the Gulf states, we have the Middle East, and the Indian subcontinent. A market the size of China, of over 1 billion people. India, for example, is a market where 50 million Indians travel internationally each year. So the opportunity in a region which has still got challenges with infrastructure, we have challenges in our own region with war and conflict in Syria and Iraq, but we have a market coming out of South Asia which continues to grow. We have a market that understands brand and wants to travel. So that proximity gives, in fact, all the Gulf carriers the ability to grow their presence and connect to the rest of the world. But certainly there are many barriers as we endeavored to build this business through market access, how we compete with dominant carriers. I have one called Emirates, I have the other one called Qatar Airways. Fiercely competitive amongst the three. It's how we tackle the challenges that have been placed in front of us by the US carriers with open skies over the past 3 years. How we navigate European consolidation. So how do we work with the major European players who are also being challenged by the low-cost carriers and navigate the alliances? And as you try to run your day-to-day business and navigate these challenges to ensure that you build an aviation group where each of the respective airlines achieve their objectives. Certainly with Abu Dhabi, the mandate that the government gave me back in 2006 was very clearly build a business model that was commercial, that was profitable, and that was sustainable. So when we look at Etihad and all our investments, that same mantra is fundamental in how we grow our business. Because we realized when we created what we call our enriched business model, we couldn't do it on our own. The answer wasn't buying another 100 aircraft or 200 aircraft because we couldn't operate them. We wouldn't have access to market, nor do we have the volumes to sustain that number of aircraft. But what we saw through the investment in 2 extra A380s, we were over time able to build a network. And from the start of building this airline, that smart strategy has been fundamental. Our orders in aircraft with both Boeing and Airbus, in fact, this isn't just for Etihad, means we can actually move those aircraft across our equity partners. Sabre sponsored this conference today, but Sabre provide the platform for all our airlines, from Alitalia to Air Berlin to Air Serbia to Air Seychelles. And brand, how we build and share our brands to position our group is also fundamental. So in our own right, a $9 billion company, and over the years, due to market access, have invested in these airlines. And every airline has a different story. From Virgin Australia, which gives us 45 cities in Australia and New Zealand. We fly every day into Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane and Perth, and we feed with Virgin. To Jet Airways, as I mentioned, a market of 50 million people travelling internationally each year. When we invested in Jet Airways, we had 2% of the Indian market. Today, with Jet Airways and Etihad Airways, we are the market leader ex-India with over 22% of the market. With Air Berlin, and you would have seen in the last few days, and I'll talk a little bit more about Air Berlin, we've actually penetrated the German market, which is the largest outbound market of Europe, and just recently gone through a restructuring to ensure that business is sustainable moving forward. Air Seychelles, a major base in the Indian Ocean, a profitable airline, a high-yielding market, and we, through Air Seychelles, have a footprint which enables us to sell out of Europe into the Indian Ocean, but also in their own right to operate to India, to operate to South Africa, and to operate to Europe. And Alitalia, which is going through a series of restructurings, but again is a very important inbound, outbound market of Europe. And of course, Air Serbia, which Sinisa said has been one of the fastest turns around in commercial aviation. So why this approach? Why did we invest in these airlines? Why did we invest in airlines that have had their challenges, that need to be restructured? Well, it's about developing a network. It's about developing a business model that enables us to generate revenue top line, to achieve scale as a collective, and through partnership start to differentiate. You know, Sunisa will tell you that without the investment of Etihad Airways as an industrial partner into this airline would not have been able to restructure. By taking away overhead, simulators, the ability to place an A330 here in Serbia has enabled the airline to grow through partnership. So today, when you look at those airlines, you take our 9 billion as Etihad Airways and add our partners, we're the 7th largest airline group in the world. We have revenues in excess of 25 billion as a group. We carry over 100 million passengers, operate over 700 aircraft to over 350 destinations, employing 72,000 people. So this is the group that Air Serbia is part of. This is a group that enables us to stretch a network to the most important person, our guest, our customer, to provide network, to provide connectivity, to achieve the revenue and the structure that we need for our group to be successful. So the pillars in network, in how we not only connect over Abu Dhabi, but in the case of Serbia, how do we build Belgrade as a Balkans crossroad for global aviation? So how we develop the network in sync is fundamental. Brand, frequent flyer, how we resource and financially restructure our businesses. Over 700 aircraft. That means Air Serbia plugs into our deals. That means they get the scale of a group in regard to aircraft and the way we talk to the manufacturers and the way we focus on technology. It's how we take advantage of centers of excellence. The training for cabin crew for Air Serbia is in Abu Dhabi. The training for pilots is between Abu Dhabi and also Alitalia in the case to the A330s. That's how we work smarter and ensure that we preserve jobs and create jobs for each of the respective businesses. So as an industrial partner, our goal, and sometimes with the press, they take a view, well, these investments, how can you manage these airlines? No, we're the industrial partner. The management of the airline is with the CEO, through their management team, through a board of directors. So my focus with my team is network connectivity. How do we improve the revenues as a major aviation group and achieve economies of scale? How do we reduce unit cost? How do we become more efficient with the utilization of aircraft? And the management, with their board, are focused on the commercial goals, the growth, and obviously achieving the P&L. And over the past years, this partnership, these airlines have enabled us to build scale, to start to bring together common back rooms, what we call centers of excellence, where we can have the brightest executives working together from across the airline groups, whether that's in digital strategies, whether that's in our MRO, whether that's through a whole range of programs that we put in place. And certainly the Air Serbia opportunity was, in the early days, we were very much no. We knew Yugoslav Airlines. I worked for Yugoslav Airlines many years ago in Australia, so I knew a little bit about the business. But the Air Seychelles example demonstrated to us if there was a clear mandate from the government to restructure, and you could turn an airline around. And the Prime Minister Vučić, was very focused from day one on what this airline could look like. And with Sinisa, and when we all came together, we were all very clear that if we were able to effectively recapitalize the business, change the practices of the past, bring in the right aircraft, bring in the right service training, and create the right culture, this airline could be successful. What's the most important element? People. The people of Air Serbia are outstanding. What we've found during the past 3 years, and we have over 400 young Serbians working in Abu Dhabi with us, is that from an educational, from a commitment, from an emotional perspective, the Serbian executives are as good as anyone. And what we've seen is that this turnaround, in fact, is due to the people of Air Serbia. And today, it's a boutique brand, 20 aircraft in the fleet, 40 destinations, code shares, 2,400 people, carries 2.5 million passengers. So when we entered, obviously the financial restructure, we did let people go, but we've also brought in new people, in pilots, in cabin crew. In Abu Dhabi, we have engineers on apprenticeship programs, we have graduate managers working within the program, cadet pilots. So the turnaround, certainly, of Air Serbia to be able to reconnect Serbia to the world has been, in my opinion to date, on track. And the launch of the US flights is an example of how you can come together. The aircraft came from Jet Airways in India, the training with Alitalia, the commercial representation in America with Etihad. And quite frankly, the ability to relaunch on such a cost-effective base has been never done before. But more importantly, from an economic connectivity point of view, gives Belgrade a unique position in the Balkans to be truly a crossroad from the US to Belgrade to the region. And to date, the story, and I have to acknowledge again the Prime Minister, Sinisa, the board, from day one have been with us. The workforce is outstanding. The catalytic effect into the economy is considerable. The regional market is underserviced, so this is a first mover advantage for Serbia and Belgrade. And we come together as true partners to rebuild a pioneer of commercial aviation in the former Yugoslav Airlines to what Air Serbia is today. But the world is changing. The world is changing fast, and one of the problems of having been in aviation since 1975, whether it's economic, pandemic, war, terrorism, you have to ensure you adapt to the changes of the market. And certainly what we're seeing, on one hand, is a benefit for some airlines on fuel, but then the challenges of the UK market, Brexit, the impact of the terrorist attacks in France. We've just seen the result of the referendum in Italy. We have a new president in the USA. We have European carriers putting out profit warnings, and yields due to capacity are under pressure. So again, the ability to readapt, to work together, to continue to navigate and meet our mandate is fundamental. So focus. What does it mean for airlines? What it means is we have to continue to look at how we segment our market, how we look at technology, how we look at building our yield, how we change our profile, how we differentiate. And an example of Air Serbia is the launch of the long-haul services, but quite frankly, the pan-European operation of Air Serbia is truly best in class. How do we benchmark against the low cost? How do we continue to look at what others do to get a more simplified cost base is also fundamental, and take advantage of technology. How does a changing consumer, through digital strategies, change their behaviour? How are we able to bring them into our booking universe, reduce our cost of sale, and work smarter? And certainly, in my opinion, the partnership that we've created does deliver benefits, not only for Etihad Airways, but for our partners within the aviation group through network reach. Today, someone from Serbia can book our network worldwide, can book a flight today over Abu Dhabi to Sydney, can book a flight to New York through a global network that is available. Efficiency, scale, unit cost reduction, the fundamentals. Taking the best of Serbia into the service proposition and continuing to innovate is fundamental as we look over the horizon. Now, we just announced the other week a new partnership with TUI. TUI is the largest tour operating group in the world. And what you've seen is that we've announced aircraft moving into Eurowings and into Austrian Airlines. With Niki and TUI Aviation, we're now forming a tour business, tour airline over both Hanover and Vienna, focusing on a different business, a different cost base to take advantage of a tour operating element within Air Berlin that wasn't core for the Air Berlin business. And just watch this space over the next few weeks and you'll see more happening there. The future. The future. It's an industry that people want to travel. The consumer, the last thing they will do is surrender on their holiday. But in tough times, what we do see is the corporates pull back the belt. You still have the investment in aircraft. So, on one hand, you have to be competitive because competition is good for, obviously, consumer, it's good for trade. But we have to look at different ways of working because that legacy model, and that's what the European carriers are facing today, has to be reworked. Has to be reworked. Now, we believe working in partnership is fundamental. Air Berlin is part of One World. Alitalia is part of SkyTeam. If that makes sense for those airlines, I'm fine with that. At the end of the day, it's about the network, connectivity, and the consumer that is fundamental for business. Aviation is an enabler. It has a measurable catalytic effect from a direct and indirect perspective. Investing in aviation is certainly good for a country, it's good for people development, it is good for the economy. Air Serbia, I see similar to Etihad Airways. We're both blank sheet airlines because when we created Air Serbia, we certainly, the line of the past of Yugoslav Airlines and how we build with a blank sheet of paper an airline with a competitive product, service, and network, and giving the consumer more choice. So today is a unique opportunity. This conference gives you the opportunity to understand different models, to understand the issues of the region. But when you sit in this region, I think you have an outstanding case study in its own right. That's called Air Serbia. Air Serbia is on a journey. It's on a journey of being the right shape and right size for the region. It has people that are certainly best in class. And as an investor, you know, we're totally committed to the future and totally committed to the future of Air Serbia and Serbia. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to join you today, to give you an insight into our aviation group. And whilst on one hand there are challenges, on the other side there are huge opportunities. Thank you. Enjoy your conference.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Please take your seat. Up next, we have a very special one-on-one interview with Mr. Hogan, which will be conducted by Nenad Bjelogrlić, a renowned aviation and economic development expert. Mr. Hogan will share his experiences and provide insight into what challenges lie ahead for the global aviation industry.